operate in truth, right? Operate in truth. Tell the truth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gator Truth Florida Football Podcast. I'm Daniel, and on this episode, we're going to take a look at the Gators' upcoming matchup against the LSU Tigers, set to kick off 3:30 Eastern in the Swamp this Saturday. Of course, this is a big matchup for Billy Napier, and shortly before I started recording, he had said on his coach's show that it appears DJ Lagway will be returning to play in this game. I don't think DJ will be 100%, but definitely a storyline to watch, and we'll talk about that when we get into the offensive section. And with that said, lots of just fun little storylines going on here, from Florida's not beaten LSU in 5 tries, do not have a win in the series since 2018, despite several bad LSU teams in 2020 and 2021, much less games that Florida probably could have won in 2022. And of course, last year had a lead, albeit briefly, in the second half against LSU in Death Valley. And still, the Gators have not found ways to win. And for Billy Napier, who currently sits, I believe, at 1-10 in rivalry games, this one is a big one. And another thing to look out for, of course, is salute those who serve this weekend. We had heard that black jerseys were going to happen every year around this time. They're not happening this year. That's a whole different story, but I tell people every year, if you're going to watch one halftime show, if you're going to the game, watch the salute to those who serve halftime show. Granted, it's the same show every year, but definitely a good one. Check it out on YouTube if you have not. I've got a video of it from, I believe, 2022 that I've uploaded to the channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely check that out. Or if you're listening, you can go to my YouTube or just find any of them. I know that South Carolina 2010 is up somewhere because I've looked at that one in the past. But getting back to the game, we're going to have all sorts of interesting things. Of course, like I said, 1-10 against rivals, chance to do that. Also, Gators really playing for bowl eligibility, as currently sitting at 4-5, need 2 wins out of the next 3 to get bowl eligible and to avoid a 4th straight losing season, a 3rd straight losing season under Billy Napier, or at least that's to get a bowl, and then you have to win the bowl to avoid the losing season. But that is what it is. Got to take it one step at a time, and this might be, of the 2 games left at home, this might be the best chance. Of course, part of that is that LSU, of course, being a rivalry game, being 3:30, really rock his crowd, and LSU has some deficiencies that we'll talk about. And then next week, especially if we don't beat LSU, a little bit more of a downer, noon kickoff, Ole Miss, and Ole Miss has had a ridiculous number of noon kicks this season. And so they're a little bit more used to that, playing in that time frame, where the Gators historically have not been, too great at noon kicks. Had a slower start against Mississippi State, then really turned it on, and then almost turned it off too early this season. And of course, the Texas game last week, which granted was 11 a.m. local time for both of those, but still those noon kicks where, the crowd's more into it in the 3:30 thing. And again, rivalry game. So, and then of course you move on, and in 2 weeks, again, this is the more likely of the 2. Doesn't mean you can't beat Ole Miss, but that's why I'm saying this is the more likely of the 2 if you're going to snag one. And then 2 weeks, we have FSU in Tallahassee. The time, at least to my knowledge, has not been announced yet. So that may be another noon kick. for all I know, we're going to end up on the CW, which does have an ACC slot. Of course, the home team does control as far as conference TV deals. Home team controls that, so that'd be interesting. The Gators ending up on the CW of all places. Don't think it will, but it's a possibility. With that said, let's get into a little bit of the offense. But before we do, I'm going to give a shout out to my friends at Alvarez Lawn Company. And these guys, if you're in the Central Florida area, you've got some yard work that needs to be done. Maybe you have a lawn project that now it's not too hot, you want to get done. Hurricane's mostly through. We may have one coming in. We'll see. But you need someone to come help clean up your yard or any sort of project, give my friends at Alvarez Lawn Company a call or text for a free quote at 407-490-2617. You can also shoot them an email at alvarezlawncompany@gmail.com. Once again, for a free quote. If you're in the Central Florida area, shoot my friends at Alvarez Lawn Company a text or give them a call at 407-490-2617. Alvarez Lawn Company, building plans that work for you. So as I started off talking about, DJ Lagway, sounds like he's going to be back. Probably not 100%, but he's going to be back playing for the Gators, and that is massive, as his passing ability, which is really what the Gators need right now, is something that the Gators needed. Aiden Warner, just below average, if we're being honest. I don't mean to bag on the kid. I mean, this is a guy who's come. I don't doubt he's playing his hardest, but he's not going to get the Gators close against the Tigers. Like, that just wouldn't happen. Again, DJ Lagway, hamstring injury, coming back. I would say hopefully 60-70% to play this game. I do not see a world where he's 100%, and that is unfortunate. And one of the reasons why it's unfortunate is last week LSU lost 42-13 to the Alabama Crimson Tide. And the big thing that killed LSU in that game is Jalen Milroe, the Alabama quarterback, 12 carries for 185 yards and 4 touchdowns. DJ Lagway probably is not going to do that when healthy, although has a lot better chance. However, without healthy, I don't see him putting up that many stats in the run game, nor do I think we should try and risk it by having him run too much. Meanwhile, in the passing game, Jalen Milroe only 12 of 18 for 109 yards, 6.1 yards per throw. However, with that run game, he did get an ESPN QBR of 99.3, and that's out of 100. But also, why are you going to throw the ball too much when your quarterback is running for 185 yards, averaging 15 yards per carry? So with that said, what does that mean for the Gators? Well, it means that at least you're going to have a better passing game and a QB who might be able to be at least somewhat mobile if he needs to escape out of the pocket, but I wouldn't call too many design runs for him. And so with him being injured, what is my first key to the game for the Gators? The first key is to protect DJ Lagway. One, coming back from injury, we don't want him to take unnecessary hits, but two, I want him to be able to get the ball off and be able to hit some in the passing game. And I'll tell you why. Because number two is to run the ball. And why? And I know I say the key, run the ball, quite a bit, but the reason for this one is LSU's defense is currently 69th in the nation, and against the run, they're 74th, allowing 150.8 yards per game on the ground. And if we can protect DJ Lagway, which is number one, and number two, so maybe we could switch these up, but either way, if we can run the ball, what we're going to do is force the defense to play the run, maybe put 7, 8, 9 guys in the box. And we know how I say most of the time, pass to open up the run. Well, against a bad run defense, let's run to open up the pass, especially to maybe alleviate some of the pressure on a DJ Lagway. And if we're protecting him and allowing, and part of that is running the ball, having success on the ground. The more success you have on the ground, you are protecting DJ Lagway because you're not putting it so much on his shoulders. You're taking away chances for him to get hit, chances for him to have to run, maybe re-injure that hamstring. And so, in a way, running the ball and doing it well, forcing the defense to play the run does protect Lagway. And again, they're 74th in the nation against the run. The thing about LSU is this is not a great defense. It's 69th overall, 367 yards per game allowed. And after that Alabama game last week, and I know I said this, but just in case, they only allowed 109 yards passing. But again, that's because they gave up 311 on the ground. Even with a great quote unquote performance through the air in defense, they're still 64th in passing, allowing 216.6 yards per game. It would probably be a lot higher if Alabama, had to pass. But again, why pass when you can run all over the place? Also put pressure because you're running that clock as well. And so things that Florida can take away if we can run. And I do think with a Jacoby Jackson, I do think with a Jaden Baugh, we can run this ball really well. I mean, heck, there are times even against the starters against Texas that we ran the ball well. And I really think that there's a chance here that this offense can move the ball without needing DJ Lagway to do too much. Well, what is key number 3? Well, that's where DJ Lagway comes in, and that's to take shots when available. And what I mean by this, and to back up just a second to say where I'm going, I've always said that I think completion percentage can be overrated because you can complete 80% of your passes 9 yards or less, but you're not really threatening opposing defenses. And I would rather take Danny Werfel's 56% completion percentage in 1996 Heisman winning year. I'd take his 56% where you're taking shots downfield, making the defense play the entirety of the field versus, throwing so many short passes and causing the defense to be compact, which compacts the run game and really causes issues. So I say that for number 3, take shots when available. And so if we're running the ball and forcing the defense to play the run, well, DJ Lagway, unlike when we were throwing 80% 9 yards or less down the field, DJ Lagway can hit it over the top. He will take the shots over the top, and he will complete them if you're not playing a good game over the top. And so if you're forcing 7, 8, 9 guys in the box, that's going to open up chances to take a shot. So when they're available, we've got to take those chances, and we've got to make LSU pay. Because just like the Georgia game, he was only 2 of 6 when he went out. However, one of those was a 42, 43-yard touchdown pass to Aiden Mizell. And when you throw, 42, 43 yards for a touchdown, I'll take 2 of 6. Because if one of every 6 is a touchdown pass, or, one of every 6 is a deep shot that now the defense has to account for, well, that kind of changes the dynamics, especially against a defense like LSU's that is not really that good. Again, 69th in the nation, 74th against the run. So definitely lots of chances to run. And if we're protecting Lagway, running the ball, forcing the D to play that, then number 3 should be there, taking shots when available. And if we complete them, then that could end up causing lots of problems. And I definitely would love to see us causing lots of problems for Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers, because the more problems that we cause on the offense, the more pressure that puts on their offense to keep up. I think like last year, it could end up being a track meet. This year, I kind of like our track a little bit better. LSU last year, And I've heard people ask, well, why do you think certain things? Well, LSU last year, I think their offense was in the hundreds, if not 110 plus. And yet they were able to win some games with a terrible defense. Why? Because the offense was doing so well. And so that's really what we're going to have to do here is play well on the offense and kind of force the issue with the offense to put some pressure on LSU's offense. And what we need to do besides the offense, running the ball, controlling clock, but also allowing us to take some shots is, talking about the defense. And when we get that pressure of they've got to score, they've got to do it against the Swamp. Well, let's go ahead and talk about that in just a second after we talk about our friends at GatorChatter.com. If you're a Florida Gator fan and you want to talk to other Gators, maybe you're a believer, maybe you're not. Well, lots of good discussion going on over at GatorChatter.com. Instead of sorting through 1,000 messages to see who's talking about what, I do enjoy message boards whether it's Gator Chat or others, where it's strictly here's all the conversation about this subject and this thread. Here's that. Lots of great people over there. With that said, very happy to be in the Final Four of Survivor. I'd feel much better if Georgia Tech didn't blow the game against Syracuse after beating FSU. I also would be happy if Toledo didn't blow their game against Western Kentucky, after the week after they beat Mississippi State pretty badly. But that's all right. Final Four. We'll see how that shakes out. Top of Pick'em too. So I love that. Lots of games over there to check out. Lots of discussion. Everything from basketball, football, recruiting, just all sorts of fun discussion. Join it now at GatorChatter.com, your Florida Gator sports bar. And so anyways, let's talk about the Florida Gator defense against the LSU offense. LSU's offense is really a Jekyll and Hyde type deal. Currently 32nd in the nation at 436 yards per game. And what really is interesting is the split. LSU's passing offense is 7th in the nation, 322.3 yards per game. Last week, they're held to 239 against Bama. Our defense is not Bama's, but it is just stuff we can look at, take away. However, I said Jekyll and Hyde. What's the Hyde of this? Well, their run game only gets 114 yards per game on the ground. That is good for 113th in the nation. So very one-dimensional for this team. So really the one of the keys, and this isn't one of the keys I've written down, is just keep their running game, make them one-dimensional. Hopefully you can take advantage of that. So for the first key I have is get pressure with 4 guys, whether that's 4 defensive linemen or if it's a simulated pressure. Again, for those that aren't familiar with the term, simulated pressures are where you've got anywhere from 5 to 7 guys or more, less, looking like they're rushing. But however, you end up only rushing 4. And it could be you're rushing 2 linebackers, 2 defensive tackles, and the defensive ends drop. And we have seen some of that. We've seen Jack Pyburn get an interception dropping into coverage against Georgia. Heck, you heard me rant about TJ Searcy somehow being out in coverage against Restrepo. So it isn't always the best thing. Granted, we had simulated pressure last week where we should have gotten a pick inside the Texas 25. But if you can get pressure with 4, whether it's just straight up rush or simulated pressure, that allows you to drop 7 into coverage. And if you can have 7 guys back in coverage, whether that's man zone, man end zone, that really puts a lot more pressure on the quarterback to find the open spots with more guys taking up areas of the field, helps make windows smaller. for throwing, and just all sorts of good things. And that way you've got a better chance to blitz. Now, through the first part of the season, LSU had not given up a sack and had been playing really well. However, against Bama, for example, gave up 2 sacks. Again, we're not Bama, but we do have some quality on this defensive line, and generally the defensive line is healthy this year. For my second key is play disciplined, especially in secondary. We know that we're on some backups in the secondary. Bridges is going from safety to corner to help out. We have Castell, who has been a starter all year, but also blew quite a bit of the coverages last week against Texas. Just being honest, not trying to rag on the guy, but it happened. But stay where you need to be, play disciplined. Don't try and be a hero. And if you're asked to take like cover 2, you got both safeties, divvying up the field in half or something. Stay where you need to be and play your assignment. And if you do that and we're able to get pressure with 4, then you're going to have guys that can help out, maybe get some double coverage and maybe get turnovers. And of course, this is all predicated on keeping that LSU offense in their Jekyll and Hyde state of not being able to run the ball while being able to pass. And we're going to give up some plays to LSU. But this is why, if we can hit some big plays, if we can control the clock with a run game, if we can keep scoring, well, it puts more pressure on LSU. And maybe Nussmeier, their quarterback, maybe he starts forcing things if we can get pressure. And he's got the pressure of, I've got to keep up with scoring. And so again, if you're disciplined, if you're getting pressure with 4, that's going to be big for this defense. The final key I have, and I know this is probably an interesting one, but for this defense, we've got to win the turnover battle by 2. That's what I believe. There have been times we've had issues turning turnovers into points this year, and times that we've definitely done a great job. I mean, of course, our first touchdown against Georgia, Devin Moore gets the pick, and then the next play, there goes DJ Lagway to Aiden Mizell, touchdown. And so if we can win it by 2, and that's not just getting 2 turnovers, that's either 2 turnovers and we don't give up 1, or if they give up 1, we get 3, because our chances go up astronomically if we get those stops, and probably help us out with field position. With an arm like DJ Lagway, there's always a chance, probably from 50, 60 yards, that we can take a shot at the end zone after that turnover. We can go after that 64th ranked pass offense if we can get those turnovers. And let's say they come early, well, that's a chance to get up multiple scores. And again, win it by 2, because if we just win it by 1, I'm not sure. But 2, I think, takes us a long ways, and that could be fumble, that could be interception, however we get it. And so I'm really curious to see what this defense does. I mean, we do have injuries. Pup Howard is out for the linebacking core, but this is where a guy like Derek Wingo, who's played a lot, is a 5th-year guy, needs to step up, needs to do well. Jaden Robinson, another young guy, needs to come in, step up. Graham and Childs, true freshmen, got a decent amount of snaps against Texas, continuing to develop. Maybe they come in, make a play. I believe Graham was the one who forced a fumble last week, and Childs recovered. So lots of options there. Hopefully we see these young guys step up. Gates has done great things, has done bad things, did get the good pick against Georgia. So again, there are chances here for the Gators to show that, yes, we really are turning a corner and getting the Gators' first win over a winning team this season, getting the first rivalry win of the season, and all but securing bowl eligibility, because I don't think we're going to want to hedge our bets against an Ole Miss team that is coming off a bye next week and coming into the Swamp at noon. Much less if we're at a spot where Gator fans are checked out. This is a way to bring the Gator fans, that are somewhat checked out back into it. And with that, if you're able to get the Gator fans back into it, you get a better home atmosphere next week against Ole Miss. And who knows what could happen. But with that said, again, offense, protect Lagway, run the ball, force the defense to play the run. That way you can take shots when they're available. On defense, get pressure with 4. That way you can have extra bodies back to help control this elite LSU, which I'd say top 10 in the nation, elite passing offense. Play disciplined, whether it's linebackers in the run gaps or secondary, making sure that they're not blowing a coverage, leaving a guy open. And then, of course, win the turnover battle by 2. I think this is one that the Gators, especially with DJ Lagway back, I think this is one that the Gators possibly could pull off, especially at home in an atmosphere of people who want to see it. You've got a lot of big-time recruits coming in. So what is the thing you need to do? You need to pull off this win if you can, for a lot of reasons, but most definitely to show that we can beat rivals, to show that we can beat winning teams, to show recruits we are trending up, because of another performance like a Miami, a Texas A&M will not go over well. You don't need the crowd reacting like they did in those games late in the year, voter of confidence or not. And although I do not to be honest, I do not necessarily like our matchup with their with their passing offense. I do like our matchup of our run game against their run defense, and also just how one-dimensional they are on offense. And I do like DJ Lagway, even if all he's doing is throwing the ball. With our run offense the way it is, I mean, heck, I think if we had if Warner's a better passer, I think that I'm not saying we beat Texas last week, but I don't think it's 42-0 either. I think it's probably closer to, with the missed field goal, I think possibly that ends up being a touchdown that drive. We're talking maybe 21, 24-7 at the half, just because the offense is moving a little bit better, taking up a little bit more time, although we still won time of possession pretty handily in the first half. But also probably getting in the end zone and stuff like that. So I think with DJ Lagway against a worse defense, of course, we talked about last week, Texas, number 1 defense, possibly the best defense we face, where this week it's LSU, again, 69th in the nation. Definitely an opportunity. One of your last and definitely your best opportunity to beat a team with a winning record and really show off for some recruits in the process. So with that said, thank you all for listening. Oh, hold on. Didn't give a prediction. I'm going to probably have faith on this one. I'm not going to pick against Florida. But I think this is a chance where Trey Smack is going to make a high pressure kick. And win it 24-27 Gators, possibly at the end, you get a little of the back and forth between the teams. Florida, keeps it close by running the clock with a pass game, maybe hits 1 or 2 big passes with Lagway. LSU, I definitely think, gets a few scores with their passing game against our pass defense. With that said, I'll go with 27-24. Trey Smack hits 2 big field goals, possibly 1 late in the game to pull out the win. Now, with that said, thank you all for listening. And as always, go Gators.